I found some new Chapter 4 info that tells us more about the new game already, along with some recent Poppy Playtime drama, new behind the scenes and hidden merch, new Chapter 3 updates and gameplay changes, and much more. So first, most recently, we got a 4th new patch for Chapter 3 a month after its release, and again, the game got some pretty important changes. Like, for instance, they added an entire objective tracker system that now will keep track of every task the player needs to do to ensure they don't get lost, which is actually extremely helpful. Furthermore, one of the most confusing parts of the game, the final encounter, also got some quality of life changes as well, such as them adding a feature that allows players to skip dialogue or tutorial steps, and most importantly, even added some new Poppy voice lines that talk the player through everything they need to do in the game.
I hope this is coming through. There's no time to waste. Catnap is on his way. Try putting the batteries in the different glowing spots.
Plus, of course, they made sure to add a bunch of minor changes and bug fixes, and honestly, you have to give them a lot of credit for updating the game so much after release, because it's nice to see the game constantly getting better and them ironing out the glitches inside. Moving on to behind the scenes, while there is a ton of cut content found around the internet, ranging from smaller stuff like unused versions of the smiling critters are to major stuff like these official renders from the Hour of Joy VHS, one of the most mysterious pieces I found was this one that shows some concept art into the creation of Catnap, who was originally named Cuddle Kitty. And in this, he pretty much looks exactly like Catnap does in the final game in terms of their general design. However, originally he was supposed to be a suit that employees would actually wear, and you could even see their face poking through Catnap's mouth. And first off, I'm already wondering how this would have worked in the lore with there actually being a survivor in Playtime Co who wore the massive suit. But most importantly, in the bottom left on the primary additions to concept list, we could see the characters' listed features, including one here that is completely blanked out for some reason, suggesting Catnap was originally going to have some other features that they are hiding from us. And when people asked about this blanked out feature, they just replied with shrugging emojis. So maybe they just didn't want to share, or perhaps it could be a primary feature they chose to save from Catnap and implement into future chapters and characters like Chapter 4, which we talk more about later in this video. But tons of other Catnap concept art has also been released that doesn't mention or showcase any missing features, so I'm not really sure. Also, the person who posted this, Micah, who used to but no longer works for Mob, was even asked about if there would be a full Chapter 3 behind the scenes video, like what they did on Chapter 1 and 2's respective anniversaries, where they show cut content, characters, and concepts, to which they said, to their knowledge, they actually aren't doing them anymore in the future. Meaning, unfortunately, there likely won't be a Chapter 3 Lost Secrets video for its anniversary or anything, but maybe we'll get some more BTS updates in the future from the devs individually. In some more interesting news, recently for Chapter 3's launch, the developers out in Japan actually started holding a pop-up shop for the first couple of weeks of March that, when visiting, includes some Chapter 3 art and theming around the walls, which is pretty cool. But after looking through this pop-up, I also found that there are going to be a couple Chapter 3 exclusive merch drops, like for instance a physical version of Catnap's Get Some Rest poster, and even what looks like some folders featuring these smiling critters and other posters throughout the game, which is pretty cool because on the back we could see some art of the critters driving inside of a car, which has been shown off in some previous behind the scenes as well. And on the non-Chapter 3 ones, we also get some new art that shows Cat Bee, Huggy, Hoppy, and Kickin all playing soccer together, which is pretty cool. In terms of if this merch drop will ever come into America, the devs are yet to drop any new merch post Chapter 3's release, so perhaps this could be a super early look as to what's coming in the near future. Moving over to a bit of drama, recently a brand new Poppy Playtime game, Poppy Playtime Forever, just released onto Roblox after a pretty sudden announcement, and despite the game doing well numbers-wise, the fans have actually been pretty disappointed with this release, as fans were not very fond of the abrupt and short campaign mode, along with the massive amount of bugs, not to mention that nothing we see here is even canon, so there's no lore in this game at all, taking away half the fun in actually playing a Poppy Playtime game, especially since the gameplay just isn't that great. It's a fun game to play once with friends, but outside of the level editor, which is dependent on what the fans create, there isn't much bringing me back to the title. But things aren't all bad, since over in the Poppy Forever Discord, the devs said they are already planning to give some major updates to address all these concerns, with them already confirming they want to add other characters in the game like Kissy Missy and Mommy Longlegs, which would help a ton since right now there's only Huggy Wuggy, and they also said there are plans to add the ability to play as the monsters, which again would make the game a lot more fun and replayable, and this, along with them confirming there will be other modes coming at some point in the future, 4 makes me hopeful that the game will take a turn for the better, because it definitely needs some work right now. Also, as a footnote, for some reason there is an Easter egg in this title where if you take the black key card over into earlier parts of the game, you can open this hidden door that hides basically nothing, except for in one room there's an artboard that shows some weird ice cream drawing. I don't know if this has anything to do with Poppy Playtime or if it's something relating to the devs, but let me know if you have any ideas. Moving over into chapter 4, we already know the game is in development and likely won't get very much news until we get a teaser trailer or something. But while digging for some potential lost info for the chapter, I was able to find a bit of old information mentioned by the devs worth bringing up and theorizing about relating to chapter 4. Like, for one, the devs have already said a year ago now that they already know some good chapter 4 moments people are going to freak out over, meaning they were already planning the game this early on, which makes sense since they probably already know how the game is going to end in whenever chapter is the last. But now that we have chapter 3, in terms of big moments, I'm really interested to see what the devs are talking about here. They've already seemingly previously confirmed chapter 5 and maybe even chapter 6 are happening, so we won't be killing the prototype or leaving the factory or anything game ending like that. But perhaps this could be referencing us getting some answers to some of the bigger questions we got at the end of chapter 3, like what does 1006 look like, what happened to Ollie, or even who attacked Kissy Missy. I'm not sure, but that's already great to hear, especially since chapter 4 sounds like it's going to be more focused on the prototype finally, and maybe we'll get some real answers for who he is or what secrets he could be hiding from the player. But comment down below what you think they could be referencing. Furthermore, in some more older messages, when being asked about other things such as if there were going to be bad and good endings for chapter 3 before it released, they've actually said while they weren't doing them at the time, they've actually discussed it before and could see it happening at some point in the future as their team grows, which is a pretty important detail since as of right now there's only a couple of chapters left max, maybe 4 and 5, so that could be another massive tell about chapter 4 or even maybe chapter 5. But again, these messages are like a year old, so I would take them with a grain of salt. They've also half confirmed some other things about the chapter worth mentioning, like here when they said they were planning on catering the 4th chapter and everything beyond based on how much people liked the tone of chapter 3 before it released. And now that the game is out and we see that people absolutely love the game, it's likely this means chapter 4, chapter 5, maybe even the future of Project Playtime is going to contain a lot more horror, as they've already shown interest in the past already. Plus, while we don't know for sure, the developers are also likely going to do other promotional things for chapter 4 in the near and distant future. Like for the last chapter, they did a whole ARG and a bunch of VHS tapes, with them originally wanting to do a full VR experience according to their Discord that ended up getting scrapped. So maybe they will do something similar for chapter 4 now that their team is much more established. But until then, that's all we really know, so check out this video to learn more about the game, at least as much as we know this early on.